sleeper must awake.
So, if you've read the title of this episode, you'll know that today, well, it's just me. I hope you're not too disappointed. It shouldn't be a very long one. And this me that's talking, maybe you don't know who that is. So, my name is Dominic Vallee. I am hosting this show called Hopscotch Chronicles. And this is episode 8, right? Interesting, recorded on January 8th. So, yeah, I just wanted to get back on the horse for this new year. And I wanted to share with you a poem. Should I call it a poem? Yeah, I guess so. That I've written, or actually that I've grafted together. You'll understand with when you hear it. And some thoughts that triggered me to write it. If you're following me on Twitter, maybe you've already read it. So yeah, and there's going to be a bit of news, bit of updates, which will be at the end, so you don't have to listen to them. But anyways, yeah, I'll try to make it not too long. So let's get on with it. Yeah, before we get back to the interviews, and as I was saying, I wanted to kick things off in a special way for the new year. I thought I'd talk about something a bit personal, so that, well, because most of you don't know me, so so you have an idea of where maybe some of those point of views that I have, like, where do they come from? What is that dude thinking, or how is that dude thinking? Maybe it's going to give you a little idea of that. So, yeah, something, a theme that's a bit more personal. I'm thinking maybe it's going to be more relatable to Gen Xers, people of Generation X. Although I'm kind of, I'm a late Gen Xer myself. But I'm making this still for everyone, just to share my story, hoping to one day that this sharing becomes an actual sharing and becomes an exchange with you guys, some of you guys. So let's hope that this touches your heart in some way, whatever your age is, or background, or whatever. All right, so I want to talk about the influence that the grunge era had on me, and I'm specifying here the grunge era more than a style of music, a specific, or like outside of Seattle, where the movement, if you want to call it a movement, was born, or so just that era of the early, for me it was the early to late 90s. And I want to talk especially of the influence of that the music of that time had on me, because music was always very, very important to me, and very very influential. And I started because of one of my cousins introduced me to music as I was still very young. I was about, I'd say 11 when I really started to dig into music and discover things by myself. And my parents divorced when I was 11, and this actually might tell you a lot of well, it won't tell you that much about me, but at least it's an interesting fact that the album that helped me go through my parents' divorce was Disintegration by The Cure. So for anyone who knows that album, it's very, very dark and very atmospheric, very depressive mood. And that was my trip. That was exactly what I needed, and I was young, so that mood, that depressive mood became very, very familiar and exacerbated when I was about 11, 12. Quickly after that, I discovered skateboarding, and because of the friends that I had when I started skateboarding, I discovered punk rock and metal, but speed metal. I liked very fast things and very, very angry things, So I was into Black Flag, I was into DRI, I was into Agnostic Front. I can remember the ones on top of my head like that. So very fast, aggressive music, and then came the what I call the grunge era, and so the classics, Pearl Jam and Nirvana, and but also I include in that era a lot of music that, even grunge, the kind of music is so the different aesthetics. Except for the loudness of it, like it's very, very wide. So for me, it wasn't very hard to jump from, what is classically called grunge, starting from punk and then moving and The Cure, and moving on to, for example, shoegaze, or sometimes it's called dream pop. Also, I don't know what all those names are, but so like all this very grungy, very dirty, dreamy music, sometimes fast, angry, but not often positive and uplifting and joyful. So what's also aside from the aesthetics of the music itself, we can't help but think about the lyrics when we've been submerged in that kind of music and in that era. Aside from kind of rare examples, a lot of it was very, very dark and depressive, nihilistic, really. So, but back then, I mean, those lyrics, I felt kind of a kinship to it, to those lyrics and to the music, because I really, not only did I feel like an outsider, but I was one, you know. And what those lyrics were saying were that, you know, I don't fit in. But it's also very seeing it as a bad thing, also, like not being part of the world. You know, that Radiohead song, Creep, you know, like, I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo. What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here, you know. It's not exactly positive. But it did correspond to my experience of the world, and how, I mean, what Thom Yorke said in that song, my high school principal basically said the same thing to me, that I was a creep, a weirdo, that I don't belong there, you know. So it made sense. And as dark as it was, it was very important for me to have this music to express myself, to express those feelings that I truly felt. So yeah, I'm reminded of Soundgarden in that song, Fell on Black Days, you know, I fell on black days. How would I know that this would be my fate? I remember singing that actually, mostly when I was alone, but then I started making music, so yeah, playing those songs with bands when I was about 16, 17, you know. But then something happened. I think I was mostly influenced by all this music between the age of, a good 10 years after, when I look back, starting when I was, 10, 11, 12, upwards to 20 years old, maybe 21. Because at that point, slowly I evolved into a very new agey person, you know, which kind of feels already from the start like all this light and love and light and positivity like came into conflict with all those heroes that I had in the grungy music world, you know. And I think something that kind of kicked my ass was learning about what is often related to new age thinking. So it's a concept which is called the law of attraction. Yep. So how do you square that? So as I said, I flirted. Jeez, I didn't flirt. I was deeply engaged and married to the idea of depression. No, I mean, I was, I had long bouts of depression, and they were getting harder and harder to get through. But that law of attraction thing made it worse. Because, you know, like, it's one thing if, you're all floaty and happy and love and light. But then you're depressed. So I would fluctuate greatly between those two states. And then, but one day you learn that what you think of, you create. So whenever you're depressed, don't go listen to Portishead. Nobody loves me. It's true. That song, Sour Times. Don't listen to Alice in Chains. I'm down in a hole. I'd like to fly, but my wings have been so denied. So don't listen to that, because you're gonna create more of it. So an internal struggle begins, and my depression got way worse because I tried to fight against it, I tried to deny it, to not create more of it. Ironically, it did the opposite. But yeah, I'm saying that, I'm not saying in a pompous or pretentious way, but I do consider myself a mystic at this point. And I know now, that it was part of my growth. A lot of, that thing that they call the dark night of the soul, that was it. That was it. And it was needed. I had to go through that phase, So I went from depression to crisis, basically. And I don't know what I can say if I don't want this video to get banned on multiple platforms. But I had dark ideas, and they were getting worse and worse. Until one day, ironically enough, I had some kind of I'm not gonna call it enlightenment, but it was an enlightenment experience. And ironically, it came because of a Radiohead song. Maybe I'll tell this story one day, but anyways. And after that, the fighting against depression, I can't say that it stopped immediately, but I became conscious of that mechanic, that fighting against it didn't help. So, and then it took me years, after that to be able to see this drama that I was creating in my life. Because I'm wondering to this point how much of it was caused by all those songs that I listened to, and I did repeat, like mantras, basically, like how those songs helped me create filters through which I saw life. How everything was basically dramatic. It had to be for me to be surrounded by something familiar, because that was my... Actually, it kind of saved me from a lot of the pain I was going through growing up, but I mean, yeah, in my teenage years. And Also, when I look back, I know that I learned how to. It was important for me, all this, because I learned how to use music and use arts to express something. But then, like, maybe I was wallowing into my own crap, back then. And this is another thing that I learned not to do with the years. But still, it contributed to me going towards that dark night of the soul and then going through it. Yeah, sometimes we say, or we hear people say that the mystic has one day or another has to go through madness, complete madness. Some people start maybe to realize that spiritual growth can be one of the most painful things that you can do. I'm not sure we actually do it. That's maybe another thing for a different time, but maybe it's a bit more natural than we think. So I'm gonna read the poem that I was telling you about, that, as I said, that you might have read already if you're following me on Twitter. And it's a great example of how I, at least, I can use art and creativity to help me free myself from old things, or things that I know that aren't really necessary. And for me, listen, I'm gonna read the poem. And I was using the term creativity. It's not that creative what I did. It's as I said in the intro, it's not really a writing of a poem, more than just grafting different I won't say much more right now. I will just read it. And I'll comment a bit more afterwards. So it's not really a title, but that's the title, quote unquote, that I used on Twitter, which is A Transmutative Call to the Slumbering Gen X Mystics. And it goes like this. Do you still see yourself as a rat raging in a rusty cage? Or did you break it and run? Are you still down in a hole, feeling small, unable to fly, your wings denied? Are you still reeking of teen spirit? Or did you ever get to check your head? Did I nearly lose you among the screaming trees, unloved in these sour times? Have you reached Nirvana yet? Or are you still just a monkey waiting to say hello to heaven? Are you still gazing at your shoes, bloodied and loveless? Or rather, roaming the streets with fascination, cured of your disintegration? Is your head like a hole? Are you still hurt? Are you still alive and in bloom? Are you still waiting for the bastards to come, raging against their machines? Wake up! Hey, I've been trying to reach you. Don't you know that we're unchained? Now me, I didn't really fall on black days. I'm no loser, baby, and no one can kill me. I'm not a worthless liar. I am not an imbecile. I am not a creep, and I'm twice the man I used to be. I'm striving in the Jesus Christ pose, in a state of love and trust. Now I leave them all behind with a smile, saying thanks for the ride. Here I come as I am, no longer paranoid, no longer an android. All I aim for is a sure shot and an end to the sabotage. I'm awake now in the fire. I'm ocean size, fading into myself. There is no rain, and I am sane. I'm spiraling out, and I keep going, reaching for the higher grounds. So, it's funny how that idea came and how it got realized, concretized. I just had insomnia one night. I got up and I went to the living room and just started typing on my iPad, and I feel like for me it's part of a maturity process to write this and to read it. Like I've reread it many times. I've posted it on Twitter expecting which is something you should never do if you're just starting a podcast or anything like that. But I was kind of expecting a response. And I was hoping, that's a better word for it. I was hoping for a response for other people who came out stronger and bigger out of the grunge era. I was hoping to find some phoenixes who burned themselves to death only to be reborn. Just to make it clear though, it's nothing against all that music and all those artists. I still love it, and I feel so much gratitude for all this dark and depressive music. It was who knows what would have happened of me if I chose the path of fleeing and distraction, instead of really exploring those dark feelings through these lyrics. starting at a young age, while I was going through dark things, So to all the artists mentioned in that little poem, thank you. I thank you. So, maybe it's a bit personal, all of this. But I think even if you're not a Gen Xer like me, or even if you're, because I'm thinking of people who were born more in the beginning of what we call the Gen X time. I don't know how to call it. Maybe there's some of the music there that it's not going to touch them, or they were already past that, or maybe like even this grunge term, like for me it was very novel and very cool, but for people a bit older than me, maybe it was kind of a novelty and was kind of associated with corporate rock or something, which it totally is, by the way, that term grunge. But even though this is very personal, and I'm mentioning all the influences that were affecting me specifically, I think there's a common point for everyone, and this common point is influence of cultural influence. Whenever you were born, you were influenced by your culture. But not only that, just as I've appropriated those dark aesthetics to create the filters that would define my life, we've all created our filters, like no matter when we were born and what the culture was when we were growing up, yeah. So as an aside, I'm not sure so much about the law of attraction anymore. It's an interesting idea, and I look for traces of it in my life. But yeah, that's another subject. Maybe I was flipping out for nothing back then. I don't know. But that's another thing that even though you don't, even if you don't know any of those references that were in the poem, and whether you believe in the law of attraction or not, we can see in my little story, and so many people's stories, how the mechanics of those mantras, those ideas that we keep repeating ourselves, especially in those years that are very formative when we're young, when we're when we're starting to experience society and friends and love, what are those artistic ghosts following us, telling us that what is of reality and what is true and what isn't, This is something that we all have in common. How we create those filters that sometimes follow us for so long, sometimes without us even realizing it. And for me, I've worked hard to recognize those filters. A lot of work. So I'm curious of you guys, you who are listening to this, if any of you made it up until this point in the video, do you recognize yourself in that poem, or maybe a past self, in those songs, in those lyrics? Or maybe even some people are not as influenced by music as I was, and maybe it's movies or movie characters that you really identified with, to the point where you forgot to consider that maybe that's not me, or maybe that's not completely me, or maybe that's a dramatization, because we carry those filters for so long, and I think it's part of maturity to recognize them, if I say so myself. That's what I believe. So do you recognize yourself in that poem? Or if not, what kind of influences are still having an impact on your life, and where do they come from? From art? From music? Yeah, you can leave that in the comments if you want. I'd love to read your comments. I can't wait for this podcast to open the doors to, more people, and that we really start to exchange. So if you feel like leaving a bit of your experience in the comments, go ahead. I'll read everything for sure. Now that I can, because who knows, maybe one day I won't have time to read all of it. Now it's the time if you want me to read your stuff. And also, if you want to have fun, enumerating all the bands and all the songs and the albums that were referred to in the poem, that could be a cool game, and I'll tell you if you're on the right path or not. That's the kind of path I can tell you if you're right about. All right, so I'm gonna leave you with, as I said, some quick news and just quick updates about the show. I won't tell a lot, but if you're thinking of switching the video off, if you want to leave a like, if you liked it, you listened to almost all of it, so I'm guessing it wasn't that bad. Or maybe you've spent all this time hating me, but if you do, leave a dislike. Anyway, so yeah, updates. Not a lot of updates about aside from the year is starting very well. I have 3 interviews already that are booked, so expect more shows in January and February. There's some very cool guests in there, some that I'm really surprised that they've agreed to be on my 53 subscribers podcast. I'm super fortunate, and I can't help to speak with those amazing people. I would so love to tell you who those guests are, but yeah, you're gonna have to wait until the shows are actually recorded. So keep an eye out for that if you're not subscribed yet. Whatever platform you're listening to this on, subscribe to it. Yeah, that's nothing new. It's so weird saying all that. Like it's the kind of thing that we hear 50 times a day. But yeah, do subscribe. Also, a quick note about the Patreon. I've taken a little break from the Sunday tea videos because, listen, I'll be honest, I have 2 supporters on Patreon right now, and one of them is my mom, and the other one is, of course, it's greatly appreciated, but it's a friend of mine, and I know that I'm pretty sure they don't have time to listen to my videos. It's just to support my work, which I greatly appreciate. But it kind of feels at the moment like I'm speaking into the void. So I'm kind of, I don't know how to deal with that, like, should I keep making them in case there's someone one day, or should I wait before I have supporters on there? I don't know. That's kind of boring stuff for me, all this side of podcasting. Maybe I'm saying that because I don't have many supporters right now, and if I had some, I would be so freakishly grateful. But anyways, like for the time being, my only reason to do all of this is to be a part of other people's growth and evolution, and other people's path of consciousness expansion, if you want to call it that. Because a lot of people have been important to me on my path, so all I want to do right now is give back and give rise to these energies that are just burning to be made real. All right, so I think that's it. This show should come out right now. It's January. That's so hard to say. 8 janvier. There you go. I'll say it in French. 8th of January. And the show comes out on Thursday. So expect another show next Thursday. So it's Thursday today if you're... Oh man, I'm ruining this. Okay. I'm just gonna say thank you from the bottom of my flaming heart for listening to this. I hope you're gonna share some of your stories and in the comments. And I can't wait to talk to you again. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something from it. And if you did, well, there's more to come. All right. Thank you again, and see you next time. So you've made it to the end of this Hopscotch Chronicles podcast episode, and I hope that you've enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed doing it. And I thank you so much for your attention, and I hope you're benefiting in a way or another from this conversation. So if you'd like to follow my work, whether on this podcast or my personal work, you can go to Twitter or X and follow me at Domi_Vallee, DOMI_Vallee. Same username for Instagram, if you prefer that platform. You can also go to the official website for the podcast, which is hopscotchchronicles.com. And if you'd like to support the podcast as well as my personal work, you can do so by subscribing to my Patreon. The address is patreon.com/Dominic Vallee, DOMINIC Vallee, VALLEE. There you'll find video and audio versions of the episodes without any commercials, as well as special episodes on every Sunday where I take my Sunday afternoon tea with you guys. All right, thanks again for listening, and until next time, keep reaching for the light.